Yo, what's up? So here's a review for the HBO Max Woodstock 99 Peace, Love, and Rage that came out last year in 2001. But this year, we also have the Netflix Trainwreck Woodstock 99. And I'm giving you a review of both of them. I started off with the Trainwreck Woodstock 99, and then I really wanted to get more into it. And I knew that they had another one that was that was on HBO Max, which is the Peace, Love, and Rage Woodstock 99. So to talk about both of these movies and just documentaries now, the Netflix one is more set up as a little short miniseries where you have 3 episodes that really devolve into all the happenings of Woodstock 99. The first one is kind of the Friday night and the pre stuff and how it got started. Saturday night, which is the next episode, and then it ends with the Sunday night and just all the craziness that devolved at the end of that Sunday night. While the HBO Max one is more of a short little documentary film, and they really get into the cultural aspect of everything and just how it affected just the people that were there, the organizers and all that stuff. But they're really talking about a lot of different things in both of these, which also kind of have a lot of different information as well. As far as which one I liked more, it's interesting. I don't really know that yet because I enjoyed the way the Netflix one kind of gave you the moment by moment aspect of both of these, not both of these, but of the whole show itself. And it really had a lot of the what do you call them, the owners or promoters there, and got a lot of stuff from them as well. And it kind of in a way talked back to them because they had a lot of the other people that worked there, and they were telling their story as well, and how the promoters were saying like it was a lot of the fault was of the people there and just the small group. The show went well and everything, and everything was really nice. And then you had the other people who worked there who weren't the promoters talking, just showing like, yeah, this stuff was crazy and all the craziness that happened there. And they had a lot of what do you call it, music acts that talked about it as well. That was really interesting. And then you had the HBO Max one, like I said, had more of a culture aspect, and they dove into things that the other one didn't, like the black experience at this Woodstock 99, especially it being just a show where there's nothing but a bunch of modern but majority white dudes there with a bunch of females, but there's very few like other cultures, especially black cultures, even though you had things like DMX performing there, which I totally remember this set. And I haven't seen this in so long. So I think I resaw it again once he passed away, but that was really interesting to see, just that whole DMX performance and how they talked about, he used the song where he says the N-word in it and stuff like that, and how the crowd was chanting it back and everything. And just they asked the question of what it would be like if a black person went there, and they wonder about the experiences of the black people that went there. So that was really interesting, and that was also kind of something I did felt missing from the Netflix one. Whereas the Netflix kind of really had to focus, like I said, of the promoters that the HBO Max one had there, but the Netflix one really dove into that aspect of it, and how it started. Something that both of them kind of talked about as well was the Woodstock. If you know about Woodstock, you know that the first one was in '96. I mean, in '69, and how it talked about it was rose-colored glasses off of both of them. The HBO Max one dove deeper into that, and how everybody think of that as a peaceful and loving time and everything, when even that one had a lot of its own problems and divulged into just insanity in its own right. So they also talked about Woodstock '94 and how that was kind of a nicer one, but it was also rained on, so you had a different things going on there. And they all really did also go into how just the different cultures of people at these Woodstock concerts, and just how they both really talked about how that really broke down, like the what do you call it, the '69 one was happening during the war and everything, and people had something to kind of say and be about, while the '94 one kind of was the same deal. It was another generation. They was coming out of the '80s and getting into their own right and stuff like that. I think that was the Cold War was happening kind of right there. You had a little bit of the Iraq stuff still, going on and starting up and everything. So, you had a little bit of something there. And meanwhile, the HBO Max one really delves into the musical aspect of everything, and how, what do you call it, the just the scenery, and just coming from grunge into this more new metal and stuff like that, and how that really divulged, and kids not really having anything to fight for. This is before 9/11, but after Columbine. So it's just this real culture and energy around, just especially the white culture that's there and that's hanging out and stuff like that. I would say that the good thing about the Netflix Trainwreck Woodstock '99 was, like I said, the hour to hour basis of it. They talked about, how once certain bands got on, this things happened, and then certain bands like Korn, which was almost everybody was there to see, that really got the crowd hyped up and really got it amped up and just going crazy. While Limp Bizkit took it overboard and started getting the crowd, destroying things and just breaking the whole thing down and stuff like that. But it really dozed into how it really wasn't about the bands that was making everything go crazy. It was the promoters themselves and how they set everything up, how just dirty everything was, and it just trash everywhere. Porta potties were broken. People were swimming around what they was thought was mud, and it turned out to be feces and piss and stuff like that. And that was just happening still at, like, towards the end of day one. Day two, you wake up in just this crazy atmosphere, and the degrees is like 99 degrees weather and stuff like that. It's just total hot in this, summer of what do you call it, New York and stuff like that. So yeah, that was really interesting to watch there and see. And it's also being done at this, I think it's an Air Force base or a military base or whatever you want to call it. And asphalt is shining the sun back in your face and stuff like that. So that was really, really interesting and watching everything. Both of them hinted on the craziness and the outcomes of the Woodstock '99. You had the HBO Max one, I would say, focused a lot harder on just what happened afterwards, or just the craziness that happened there and the effect it had on people. It talked about a lot of the violence against women. You know exactly the word I want to say, but I'm not going to say it here. Just, I don't want my video shadow banned. But the insane violence that happened against women, how they were touched and without wanting to, and just groped and stuff like that, even though they were there to have fun, show their bodies and stuff like that. The culture of men, especially white boys that were around, really took insane advantage of that and just did crazy insane things to them, especially girls who were drugged and stuff like that. And even sometimes themselves, yes, but just the vibe there of these. For me, what it brought a kind of idea was, this was the era for me where I kind of range it to was WWE Attitude Era. This was the WWE Attitude Era where young white boys thrived in their craziness. They talked about how Korn, Limp Bizkit, Kid Rock, and all that stuff, and how just, that was their era. That was the era of these young white boys going crazy. And, it was all WWE attitude for me. So yeah, was there anything else? Oh, the black cultures I spoke on before when I talked about DMX and stuff. The Netflix one brought up Wyclef Jean, and that was like the only black artist that they talked about in the Netflix one, where he was kind of the guy that really first started everything off, to where he does this America song, and I forget what the name of the song was, but he does this song and it kind of, roused the crowd up a little bit, and then he asked them to start throwing things on the stage and stuff like that. So that was kind of the first hint of, something crazy is going on here. Netflix one also talked about James Brown and how the promoter couldn't get James Brown to go on stage until he, told them to start playing the music. The crowd went crazy. That part felt a little interesting to me because that didn't even come up in the HBO Max one. It felt more like the promoters just bragging how they got James Brown to go out there and do his set and everything. So that was interesting, but it wasn't, crazy interesting. What else was there? The HBO Max one, well, both of them had a bunch of artists there. They both had Korn talking about it. They had Jules talking about it. What other artists they had? They had Black Thought there from the Roots talking about it. I think they had did a set there and stuff like that. They had Fatboy Slim talking about his set and everything. One of the singers from Metallica, I think, was talking about all the stuff that went there. They had a lady who was a host of TRL, which they had a whole segment on both of them, talking about just kind of the counterculture that was going on during the time where MTV used to be about, rock and roll and stuff like that, and how it was kind of switching into the more popish stuff with, NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and stuff like that. They even had like Backstreet Boys dolls on the stage, and people were knocking them down and stuff. But yeah, this was it was a really interesting documentary. I listened to even like some of the stuff where Howard Stern was talking of like I think he had just finished watching the documentary. He was talking about, not documentary, but just finished watching the show back in the 90s and how it went down and everything. And he was just talking about the insanity of it to where it was on pay-per-view as well. And he's watching it on pay-per-view and seeing all the insanity going on and how they would show the music acts, but you would miss it. They would never replay the music acts, and half of the time would just be showing women topless and stuff like that and being groped and grabbed and everything. And both of them were, they even was talking about it there and how, there were cases that were at like 4 cases only that were reported of, the assaults that went on to women. But you could most definitely see, they showed images that there were hundreds probably of women that something happened to them and just insane. And then the HBO Max one talked about the deaths that went on. There were 3 deaths there, and one of them was a guy that had a journal. He was journaling this whole time during the show, and I want to say he passed away during the Fred Durst part of the show. I forget the name of his band, but he passed away during that time, and yeah, it just all the craziness that was going on with him, and it just speaking as a young brother from Compton and who was alive in 99, who was like in late middle school, about to be in high school in 1999. I knew about this concert. You heard about it on radio and stuff like that. And I remember it was on, they talked about it on MTV and they talked about how crazy it was and how it just divulged into this, insane thing. But I never really knew like how crazy it was or just all the stuff that really, really went down because, it was on the other side of the country. And this was a time before cell phones and the internet really, they had internet, but people weren't using the internet at this point. So yeah, it was just insane. It was both of them were a really, really good watch. And I had a lot of fun watching both of these documentaries. I say that I would say start with the Netflix Woodstock 99 and then go to the HBO Max one. And I think both of them together create a, really, really good experience of watching it. And they give you really good information if you watch both of them together. On their own, I would probably say that they're like a 3.75 on their own as far as a rating goes, but together I would give them I give them a 4 out of 5. I enjoyed what they did here and how they told their story of what was going on here and everything, and it really fleshed themselves out together. So yeah, I think you need both of them together. I'm happy I watched them. The HBO Max one was created by Bill Simmons, so that was interesting. I'm still looking for his podcast where he talked about that and everything. But yeah, that was interesting. And even one of the promoters from the Woodstock 99, I think he passed away a couple years ago, so that was really interesting as well. So yeah, that's my review for both HBO Max Woodstock 99, Peace, Love, and Rage, and then the Netflix Trainwreck Woodstock 99. Check them out, man. I won't say I was entertained by them because it's entertaining to some parts. I want to listen to the sets. I want to hear the concert at least, even though all the crazy stuff went on. And oh, one more thing. I'm surprised about some of the footage they got here because they got a lot of topless women footage. And throughout this whole thing, they kept saying they know a lot of these women here are underage. I'm like, how did you get to show that if you don't know? Like, I don't know. It's insane. Like, but yeah, watch both of them. I thought they were really interesting documentaries and told a lot of information. But yeah, that's my review for both of these documentaries. I'm out of here. Peace.